It's 11 o'clock. I invite you back into our space, and we are going to do our annual course placement access session. Believe it or not, this is really the hallmark session for orientation training. It's what drove us over a decade ago to create something that was a coordinated effort centrally to bring us all together as advising members to really get prepared for summer orientation. So this has been a staple of our training session, and I know it takes a lot of work to put together. So I want to thank Baron for doing that for our advising community, and I will turn things over to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good to see everybody here today for this annual session that I know you all look forward to for information about what's new, different, changed, and also some reminders. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and then we'll get the slideshow going. All right. We have five different units here with us today. And you'll hear from them in the following order. Also, there's additional information for you in the Google Drive folder that was shared with everybody. Lots more good information there. So if you have um, questions or need to refer back, you can do that there. And then we'll have, of course, the breakout at the end for any additional questions. I will try to watch the chat and stuff, but if you have specific questions, try to save them for the breakouts if you can, because we have a lot of information to get through in a fairly short period of time here. And we'll start with learning abroad. Lindsay.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. I'm going to take about a minute of my five to just discuss this new program model course initiative, and then I'll spend the rest of my time talking about the course registration piece of it all. So, if you have not heard, the Learning Abroad Center is kicking off a new program initiative called Go for Gateway. Global Experiences for First Year Students, and we are running the inaugural programs in August 26th, tied to a fall 2026 semester course, or they'll meet for the first half of the semester. You can go to the next slide. Um, and we are running four courses, four programs this first year, two at our site in Montpellier, France, and two in London. And the courses will have some overlap in terms of the activities that the groups will do. So they'll have their kind of smaller group and then their larger site group in both places, which is really nice for the students, the instructors that are leading them. So they'll go abroad in August for about 10 days. They come back, attend Welcome Week, and so they're not missing that. And they'll take class with their cohort and continue on. So it's nice little cozy model. Next. And when we were first thinking about this, we were thought about why would students want to do this, incoming students? And these were the kind of the main topics we brainstormed and used for the promotion piece. And this really is what students are reporting, families are reporting. It's a big collaboration with admissions, and this is what they're hearing too. So, um, wanted to share that with you. And then next slide, just a couple other bullets. Um, they're not missing out, so they are attending. Of course, we had big notes around students must attend their summer orientation. This is where they'll register, and I'll talk about that in a minute. They'll do all their normal prep work for incoming first year students. They go abroad together, they come back together, they attend all of Welcome Week, and then they start their fall classes, including their required course that goes along with the abroad component. These have been very high touch, me and my team. I've been doing lots of additional communication with this incoming population of students kind of every step of the way. We have and will continue until we meet them in person on August 22nd. We're helping them and we're working with Mannix and Katie and Housing Res Life to students will stay on campus for a night. We'll do a bunch of pre-departure orientation and then they'll all travel together with the U of M instructors and an LAC staff member that will go with them to the airport and abroad and come back with them. So very highly supported. We will have a optional parent orientation as part of that as well on that pre-departure day. And for the meat of it, the fall course registration piece of it. So we have worked to create a new student group in that's posted to A plus. So shout out to Emily Mraz, who is on this call too, for doing this with me. Um, and we are currently in process of getting those posted to each individual students. We have 65 confirmed students going. So we're really thrilled with this success. We overmaxed all of the programs. We were able to add a few more seats on the London programs than we originally planned. Thanks, Kai. And so we have 30 going to France and 35 going to London. And so we are in process of getting them posted on each of those students. And then we will be reaching out to the colleges, either advisors or associate directors advising, depending on the college, with the list of students. So both there's a heads up there on these are the students, as well as you'll see it in their characteristics tab of A plus. So we are doing individual notes. So since I gave these slides, we changed the comment just a little bit. So it will say like fall 2026, register for, and then it will say the course designator number, short title, section number, and class number. And then students will register for that course while they're there with you, if you're their advisor during the summer orientation. Yes, I will try to stick around for the later part if there are questions. Otherwise, feel free to just email me or someone, the LAC, and it'll get to me if there's questions about that. Thanks.
And now we have Chris and Jackie from First Year Writing.
All right, thank you. It's great to be here with all of you. I am Chris Corey. I'm the Associate Director of First Year Writing. And just before we get to some registration details, I'll share a few highlights, including welcoming our new Director of First Year Writing, who officially takes the reins on June 1st. I think Jackie Fiscus Canaday is here. Jackie, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
So just welcoming her, and we're excited to have her step into this leadership role, and just so everyone knows that's happening. Thanks, Jackie. And we're continuing to design guidance and critical engagement with AI, both for our faculty and students. That is ongoing. We're continuing to develop our capacity to support information literacy as the information environment around us and our students continues to proliferate and is shaped by algorithms and AI. We're continuing to work in that area, and we're continuing to expand our thinking about accessibility and equity, both in relation to multimodal curriculum design in our courses and neurodivergency in our students. So I will go quickly through a few slides here. We actively manage enrollment over the summer so that all of our sections will have 12 seats open to start, and then we wait for them to start to fill across all of the sections and then lift raise the number of seats open, just so that there's, as students come in through the whole registration window, they have access to a whole range of sections and times. This year, starting in the fall, our course size will move from 19 to 21. So just slightly larger classes. We use the university waitlist system, and we do not over-enroll our classes. So when students asked if they can get into classes, we are telling our instructors not to over-enroll. It's really essential for our classes that they're a small class size. And we don't add students after the add drop deadline, in large part because we have such a scaffolded and interactive course design that just even missing more than a week at the start of the semester, it's really hard to catch students up. So we can go to the next slide. This chart is just explaining we have the majority of our classes, I would say 70 or 75% of our classes are offered in a blended modality, meaning they meet once a week for 2 hours face-to-face in person, and then the 2 other hours of the 4-credit course are fulfilled through asynchronous instruction through Canvas. So that's the blended modality, and then we do offer about 20 or 25% of our classes are offered in a fully asynchronous online modality. But both of those modalities, no matter how students register for the course, they're designed around research-based practices and writing pedagogy and online learning. There's a high degree of student-to-student and student-instructor interaction in both modes of the course. We provide regular low-stakes scaffolded assignments and frequent feedback. We're very process-based. So the courses are not self-paced. Even the online async one is not self-paced, and that's an important thing for students to understand when they're in the course. And there's not a way to switch from a blended course to an asynchronous course midstream. Like they're not they can't be adapted or moved across in that way. We have some multilingual and international student sections that are fully opt-in, meaning they're not required for anyone. And we reserve about 35% of the seats in those sections for multilingual or international students. It's a classroom community that intentionally brings together a range of English speakers with an intercultural focus. And those sections are taught by instructors who have interest in training in supporting interactive and inclusive classroom practices that are supporting a linguistically diverse community of writers. So both, yeah, it's just a mix of students, and any student can opt into those sections for that experience. In the fall, we have 4 sections, honors sections of 1301. 3 of them are in the blended modality, and 1 is fully asynchronous and online. Because our classes are all small and facilitate a lot of interaction, they're very similar to all of our other courses, but they're a cohort-based experience for honors students. And we tailor the curriculum to really support a focus on major or professional interest. And we'll have two honor sections in the spring, but 4 in the fall. We also have 4 sections of RIT 1401, and that fulfills the first year writing requirement through a community engaged learning version of first year writing. There's more information on each of these on our handout. What's important to know about each of these sections, they're partnered with a community partner, and students work on a project for the community partner, but it's not a service learning style course. Like they're not going to log volunteer hours at the site. They're just working on writing and research projects in class for the community partner. So they get to know the community partner, and there's other pieces built in, but it's not like a volunteer hour type of course structure. Let's see. This is, in case you're interested, and I won't go through we included some data in the slides here. This one is just showing for international and multilingual students in the gray columns, the grades that those students receive in our courses compared to the general population in the lighter columns. And what you see is that international and multilingual students are right kind of in the same realm of grade distribution generally as our general population students. And this is across all sections, not just the sections that have seats reserved for multilingual and international learners, because they're across all of our sections. And then we also, the next few slides, we continue to administer a mid-semester survey that asks students about their experience in our courses. We use this information, both individual instructors get it early in the semester so they can make adjustments and be responsive in their courses midstream to how students are experiencing their courses. And then we use it programmatically too, in order to support our instructors and our students. And we ask them about the feedback they're getting in the class. We can go to the next slide. We ask them if the grading system is clear to them. We can go to the next slide. If the course provides meaningful opportunities to engage with their peers. and if they're comfortable asking their instructor questions. And so those are just a few of the questions we ask. And if you're interested in looking at that data more or hearing more about it, we're happy to answer questions, and Jackie and I will be here if you have other questions about the program, and we have all of that information on our handout for you as well.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
And next we have Monica from the language testing program.
Hi, I'm Monica Fromm. I'm the director of the testing program, and there is an associated handout with our materials. You'll see that our 5 available tests are the standard tests that we've offered for a number of years. What I'm going to focus on today is new information for 2026, and also those aspects of the available tests that you are most likely to encounter during orientation. One of the big items that's new for 2026 is AP credit for languages in French, German, Italian, Latin, and Spanish. Please note that there is no AP credit in other languages, only the listed languages, and they are linked from the slide. The AP credits fulfill the language requirement, but they do not fulfill the writing intensive requirement. And because the AP credit is not available until July, students in their new student checklist will be instructed to take their regular placement tests, because the students will need the results of their placement tests in order to register for courses in June. The AP credit will not come in until later, and as we all know, taking an AP class is not the same as receiving the AP credit. They do need to pass the test. So that information on the AP actual test results will come later this summer. The other major item that is new for this year is IB credit for languages on the next slide. And that credit is available French, German, and Spanish. And just like the AP credit, the IB credits fulfill the language requirement, but do not fulfill the writing intensive requirement. One item to note, and we're already getting this question from students, is that AP and IB credit do not result in retro credit. Just treat them like transfer credits. So in order for students to get the retro credits, they need to take and pass their first language course here at U of M. Now, another issue with both AP and IB is placement into upper division. There is the option in some languages to place into upper division based on AP and IB credits. That information, however, is not coded into PeopleSoft. So what you need to do is email the language department directly to ask about access to upper division courses. Now for seals and certificates, students can come in either with a bilingual seal or the World Languages Proficiency Certificate. What we are focusing on is the seal, the bilingual seal. The bilingual seal fulfills the U of M second language requirement. If you go to the linked seal and certificate page, you will see that there are seals accepted from other states. They are on the list. No course credit for bilingual seals. The students need to submit the seals themselves. They're also instructed to tell you as advisors that they have the seal. From the linked seal page, there in the FAQs, there are instructions for the students to submit their seals. Minnesota students email their certificate to admissions. Students from other states used the linked form. For students who do not submit their seals, ideally, they're going to be telling you about that, and you tell them just please submit that seal right away and get it processed into their record. And when we're dealing with placement with the seals and certificates, some of the departments, again, will accept the seals and certificates for placement. They should just contact the department for the AP results. We're a bit in a situation here. I'm going to talk about this on the next slide. Some things are in transition, and there's honestly a little bit of confusion from students as to what's happening with the AP credits, what's happening with the seals and certificates. For right now, we're focusing on what is happening for this year. So the seals, many of the departments will accept the seals for upper division placement. Contact the department. It is not coded into PeopleSoft. The World Languages Proficiency Certificate, this is a lower level test. It is not accepted for placement or the language requirement. Students with a certificate, they just need to take their correct placement test. The LPE for the requirement and to placement into upper division courses, the EPT for placement into second semester, 1003 and 1004. And again, the retro credit question comes up a lot from students. Retro credit is only after passing their first language course at U of M. No credit for bilingual SEALs, and the AP IB credit is effectively like transfer credits. Now, looking ahead to next year, as you may be hearing, there is, there's ongoing confusion question with regard to retro credits for having information hard-coded into PeopleSoft. Expect for next year new guidance around retro credits, bilingual SEALs, how AP IB credit will work. That will be coming for next year. For right now, the system that we have is in the place for this particular year. Now, going forward, the entrance proficiency test, the largest single category of incoming students are going to be students who have done the EPT in French, German, and Spanish. As always, the students need a student group in place for Spanish or French in order to register for 1003, 1004. So they need the student group for passing the EPT. Of course, students are instructed to take their EPT at least 2 weeks prior to their orientation. That doesn't always happen. So if you are looking on our website, you're looking at the student's test results page, and you see that the student took the test yesterday, but of course there are no results in place yet. There is a button right on the student's test results page to request priority scoring for the EPT writing test. That request will go directly to the grader, and you will get an email back when everything has been resolved and the student has both a score and a student group, so that student can get registered right away. So use that button on the student's test results page, request the priority scoring for the EPT as needed. Something that is new for this year for course access, that in addition to French and Spanish needing the student group, beginning this year, Somali is also hard-coded for needing the EPT student group to register for Somali 1225 to 1226. That's the accelerated 2-semester sequence. 1226 is equivalent to a 4th semester course. So 1226 fulfills the language requirement. But beginning this year, students need the EPT student group in order to register for that accelerated 2-semester sequence. Again, if you hear from a student who said that I took my Somali EPT yesterday and we're not seeing any results, email us, use the link, get that information right to us as quickly as possible, and we will get that request processed in a priority manner. Another item that is new for course access this year is that Oromo, which has a 2-year sequence, both first and second year courses, so the full 4-semester sequence, they are beginning with this year to offer only 1 semester per term. So in prior years, first and second year Oromo were offered concurrently. Beginning this year, it is offered consecutively in a 2-year, 2-sequence format. So for fall 2026, first semester is being offered. Fall 2027, third semester is being offered. That means for any of your incoming students who are interested in the Oromo course sequence, they should start now. They do not have the option of waiting to 2027 and beginning the first semester sequence. You don't want them in a situation where they're going to time out and not be able to get through their course sequence. Something analogous is happening this year with Vietnamese. For this year, Vietnamese second-year course share has been canceled. First-year course share is still in place, but second-year course share has been canceled for this year. However, the accelerated 2-semester heritage sequence, Vietnamese 1015 through 1016, is being offered for this academic year, fall through spring. However, there is no guarantee that that accelerated 2-semester heritage sequence is going to continue after this year. So if you have any students who are interested in Vietnamese, strongly encourage them to get into the heritage sequence this year. It is also being offered over the summer, the heritage sequence 1015, 1016, Most of your students are going to miss 1015, but if there would happen to be anybody who is appropriate for Vietnamese 1016, it is being offered in the second half of the summer. And those students should contact us. They should get in contact with CourseShare right away, and we can see if that course would be appropriate for them, because there would be time for them to take Vietnamese 1016 over the summer. For any students who are wondering for Vietnamese which course they should take, there is a self-placement tool. The students can reach that through the CourseShare link. For the language proficiency exam, which is affecting many of your incoming students, the big issue is registration starts August 13 for tests in August and September. There are tests going on prior to Welcome Week, during Welcome Week, and during the first week of class. Just encourage the students to check on the dates, get registered for any of the reasons that they might need the LPE, or talk to us. Now, of course, the big question, which test do new students need? For most students, it is relatively obvious that they need either the EPT or the LPE. And we're back onto which tests for new students. Okay, there we go. If they are in the gray area and they don't know which test they should take, and honestly, there are some students in the gray area, what we tell them, when in doubt, start with the EPT reading and listening. They can get their results immediately. And the question that we always ask to them, did you find that test easy? Did you get a perfect or near perfect score? If so, then they should move forward and take the LP. If not, continue with the EPT. There is also a tool for students who are trying to decide between first and second semester. Placement testing issues. Students who pass the EPT with placement into 1004 should not automatically take the LPE. The majority of students who pass the EPT with placement in 1004 should be in 1004. There is a significant difference between the beginning of 1004 and the end of 1004. But again, they can talk to us. Check those test dates for the LPE, and both you and students subscribe to those test reminder registrations. You can subscribe to LPE test registration reminders. It's on the LPE test registration and dates page. ILA, last item for today. Those students who need the ILA, the procedure is standard. They will start with you. You will refer them to a designated supervisor for a pre-assessment interview. Supervisors refer them to us. Students contact us. We get them the test and test description. Then the results come. The results go back to the referring supervisor. One of the primary issues with the ILA, it is not a quick process. It takes a long process for the students to be referred, screened, to get their information to take the test. You will see on the ILA results page that results take 2+ months, which is why we normally test around midterm. ILAs are not available over the summer because there are not graders. If, however, you have a student who's trying to graduate over the summer, have them contact us immediately. But overall, any students who would be in an ILA situation, and we're on to the next slide here, encourage those students to take the ILA in their first term at U of M. They need to get started. The situation that we unfortunately see sometimes is that students apply to take the ILA, they wait through 2 or 3 years. They get to their last term at the U and they take the ILA and they don't pass. So encourage them to start the process immediately, take the test in their first year. And I will be available later on for anyone who has follow-up questions.
I wonder, we have about 2 minutes. There are some questions about Oromo guidance for heritage speakers and Chinese placement.
Chinese placement, students should contact the department. Oromo is going to be also the same sort of situation. If the students are trying to decide, do they need to start in a first semester or go on to a higher semester course, they should at this time talk to the department for guidance. If they cannot reach anyone from the department, we can do our best to help them out based on their prior situation, but we do not currently have an Oromo placement test.
All right. Thank you, Monica.
You are welcome.
And now we have our colleagues from the School of Mathematics, Brian and Mike.
Thanks, Baron. Hi, folks. My name's Brian Mosier. I'm Director of Undergraduate Studies in the School of Mathematics. Glad to be here with all of you again. And I want to thank you all for your help and your continuing partnership in communicating with students over the summer and helping make math course choices with them that increase their chances for success. I'm here with my colleague, Mike Weimerskirch, who oversees our math placement system. Let me also note Alex Kessler, our point person in the undergraduate math office for course access. Alex is here in the meeting with us as well. And I'd like to acknowledge Kate Lewis, our departmental academic advisor. Placement in mathematics courses is always a challenge because the areas of mathematics are so heavily dependent on one another, particularly algebra skills and trigonometry skills on calculus. And it's increasingly challenging lately due to trends in the calculus readiness of our incoming classes. We have 3 slides here, and the first one is about the math placement exam. I'd like to hand things over to Mike and refer you to the math placement and course access document that I think Amy has been linking to in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Brian. So Baron, is there a slide that has this document? Yeah, I'm wondering if we can actually show this document. Looking in the chat here. Yeah, do we have a link to this math placement document?
I needed to stop my share there because I have to exit out to get into the other. Here it is. Thank you, Amy. There we go. Now I'm going to share again. Thanks for bearing with me, folks. All right. Okay, here we go. All right.
Yep, if you can scroll down so that we see that entire chart. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the math placement process begins with a math placement exam, a 30-question multiple choice exam that returns a single score between 0 and 30. One important thing to note is that the placement exam tests only pre-calculus material. It does not make any attempt to decide how much calculus information, how much calculus understanding a student has. So the top placement here is just saying general readiness for calculus. So scores of 18 and above, generally ready for calculus. This is placement into Calc 1, Math 1271. If a student wants to start higher than Calc 1, if they want to start in Calc 2, then they should come in with credit for Calc 1 from PSEO, CIS, AP, IB. They should be coming in with credit for Calc 1 from some other source if they're going to start in Calc 2. Note that there is the CSE version, Math 1371, which is also a Calc 1 course. So top placement is scores of 18 and above, and that shows that they are Calc ready for Math 1271, 1371. Scores of 16 or 17 typically had placed students into a pre-calculus course, but since COVID, we've been dealing with those students with a co-rec course. And yeah, maybe I should backtrack here for a second. So our main offerings are Math 1271, Calc 1, Math 1155, Pre-Calculus, which is a 5 credit course, a slower version across 2 semesters, Math 1051, which is the college algebra skills, Math 1151, which is the trigonometry skills. So essentially, Math 1051 plus Math 1151 equals Math 1155. We also then have 2 courses that are not designed to head toward calculus. 1031 for students that need algebra skills and some probability. And then Math 10,001 is a math course for students that are looking to fulfill the liberal education requirement in quantitative reasoning. Okay, supporting those courses for students that are on the borderline are co-req courses. Math 1269 teaches the pre-calculus content that the 1271 students need to succeed if they're borderline. So a score of 16 or 17, we recommend students can take 1271, but should also take the co-req course to that, Math 1269. A change for this year is that we are now getting evidence that any student that is not yet ready for calculus but intends to take calculus should be getting the full breadth of algebra and trigonometry in the Math 1155. So a score of really anything from 9 to 15, if they are bound for calculus or if they are unsure, then in the fall 1155 is the correct placement. Unless a student already took math, but you're probably not going to deal with a lot of these students in new student orientation. If they already have credit from 1051, then they should take the second half 1151. I'll try to recap that again because it's a little bit confusing. Scores of 9 through 12, they should not go to 1151. If they're calculus bound, then 1155 in the fall, 1151 plus 1149 in the spring is a good option. Scores that are 6 to 8, they should start in 1051. They're going to need 2 semesters to get calc ready. And scores of 0 to 5, they should be taking the co-req course 1049 along with the main course 1051. If you can scroll a little bit further down, some other notes on this that students can always take a course lower than what they place into. They can place into Calc 1 and say, you know what, I'm not really feeling ready for this. I would rather get a good understanding of pre-calculus before going to Calc 1. Students can always opt to enroll in a course that is below their placement exam score. But we've seen a lot of students will try for a harder course that their placement exam score doesn't suggest that they're ready for, and those students typically have not done well in that more advanced course. So we appreciate all your efforts in getting students into the proper courses. Yeah, so there's a couple alternatives here. Math 1241 is a biocalculus course. It is a fine course for students that are calc ready, but it does not prepare students for Calc 2. Math 1142 is a short calculus course. They can do that course if they have a placement score that would have placed them into pre-calculus. So 1142, they don't need to hit that 18 score. They can go into 1142 if they are on that 1151, 1155 line. After the main placement exam, so Baron, if you can now scroll down to these other exams. After the main placement exam, if a student sees their placement and decides, you know what, I didn't do well on the test, I didn't take it seriously, whatever, I did not get placed into Calc 1, but I think I deserve to be there. There are secondary exams that students can take. So if they place into 1155, they can take the 1271 qualifying exam, which will yield a result that either says, nope, you should stay with that 1151, 1155 placement, or yes, you have proven yourself, we will move you up to 1271. One step down, students that place into 1051 can take a secondary exam and get into 1155. Again, if they hit that upper threshold, then we say, yep, we believe that you have proven yourself and you can take 1151, 1155, including a student could place initially into 1051, take the 1151 qualifying exam, qualify, then take the 1271 qualifying exam, and then qualify for that as well. They can work their way all the way up the ladder. I think that is all of the details. Yeah, let's take a look at a couple of those examples. Right, so what will you see in A plus? You will only see the last exam that they take. So if they take the math placement exam, you will see that score. If they take one of the qualifying exams, then you will only see the score for the qualifying exam, knowing that their initial exam would have put them into that lower course. Yep, and then if you can scroll to the so 1271 is the CLA version of calculus. 1371 is the CSE version. So a placement in 1271 is also 1371. The 1272, 1372 is Calc 2. Students going in that direction should have credit for calculus in some other way. Placement into 12, yeah, stay up above there just a little bit longer. 1241, students should get the score that gets them into a calculus course. 1241 is a calculus course, but it is not designed to move them on to 1272. Again, 1251, there are also other legitimate first year courses that earn the QR liberal education credit. But 1001 and 1031 are not designed to prepare students for calculus, but they are legitimate paths to get to Math 1151.
I just want to let you know we got about 3 minutes. So if there's things you want to hit, we got to hit them.
Yep, I'm going to get it back to Brian here in 1 second, but do want to mention that we will, the registration does not enforce these cutoffs, so we appreciate your efforts in giving students the information. Our undergraduate staff will be looking at students that chose a course that is beyond where their placement exam says they should be. And we'll be sending emails to them, but we will not be disenrolling students. So anything you can do to get students in the right course at the beginning is much appreciated. Back to Brian.
I'll do what I can, Baron, here in 2 minutes. Second slide is about course access, and I know that you all have questions about that. We have a large number of discussions of math courses at the 1 and 2,000 level at all times of day. Because of that, similar to first year writing, we increase discussion sizes gradually over the course of the summer, and we try to keep discussion sizes of a given course roughly equal. So as a result, some discussions may appear closed to students, but please urge the student to reach out to us at ugrad@math, the email address on the course access document, to request permission. Thanks for helping us communicate that availability to students. Of course, our goal is to make our math courses available to every student who need them. And I know that there were challenges with this due to some unexpected demand. But we are adding sections of second year math to respond to changes in major choice. And we've added sections of pre-calculus to respond to a larger number of incoming students who are not calculus ready. I'll also mention that we have online sections. We believe that for in-person degree-seeking students, there's no substitute for the in-person mathematical experience, but we understand that some students need that flexibility. On the other hand, we may, for the sake of flexibility, be adding online sections toward the end of the summer registration cycle. I have some notes about AP and IB credit. These are ways that students can start in a course beyond Calculus 1. But I want to be mindful of the time, and in particular of chemistry's time, and just say that I'm happy, along with Mike, to answer any questions about that or course access or placement during the Q&A at noon.
Thank you, Brian and Mike. Now we have our colleagues from chemistry, Angela and Michelle.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Thank you. Just some kind of an overview of some changes. We've got this new course, the Chemistry of Life and Death, that Chem 1001 is replacing Chem 1015. It's a different course, really aimed at a slightly different audience, but required co-requisite of the Chem 1017 lab. And just a reminder, changes that are a couple of years old, but we no longer do placement for any of our 1,000 level courses. We just ask that students have a strong set of math skills. Algebra is used fairly extensively, and it makes it a challenging course if they don't have those skills. Recommendation is placement into the Math 1155 or 1151. Again, college algebra, pre-calculus skills are pretty important. So this new course, Chem 1001, it's a single semester chemistry course, standalone. Students that need just an introductory chemistry course that fulfills the physical science with lab education requirements. So they must enroll in both the lecture and the lab. It isn't an a la carte sort of thing. Students are instructed to register for lab first. However, I've already gotten some emails, students trying to register and saying they can't get in, but it's because they're not adding the lab at the same time. So make sure that you help them with that. All of the lectures are in person. And again, it's replacing Chem 1015 that will no longer exist. And those two courses, Angela might have to correct me. I believe we're making those equivalent to one another in CourseDog. Next slide. So I'm going to go through just our three kind of tracks of general chemistry courses where students may be looking to take a course beyond that one semester 1001. So we don't expect that students have any background or prerequisite chemistry knowledge coming into 1061 and 1065. We really build up from the beginning. Again, strong math skills are necessary, and the placement into Math 1151 or 1155 are at a minimum. And again, students have to register in 1065 lab first before they can get into a section of the 1061 lecture course. They sometimes will struggle with that, but that is necessary. And then we have our second track of general chemistry, which is for the CSE students and the honors track. That's 1071 or 1071H. They can take either one. And again, they take Chem 1065 lab with that. Those are co-requisite courses, and students have to register in that lab first. And so these are people who are majoring in chemistry from CLA, they're in CSE, or they want that honors chemistry experience. They can transfer into, students can transfer into the second semester of this honors course or 1072 from either 1061 or 1081, but only with really strong performance in those courses, that first semester class. And so that would be a discussion with you all. Is this a good thing for me to do? Again, strong math skills. And then 1081 is our life sciences track. So this is the third track in Gen Chem. And I think I will turn this over to Angela, since this is her baby, and she can run us through the rest of the courses.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, so life sciences is our third kind of multi-semester Gen Chem track. With starting with 1081, 1065. This is the first semester of that 3-semester condensed Gen Chem OChem series. It's designed for students in life sciences majors or interested in careers in life sciences. It is a strong chemistry foundation. They do get general chemistry and organic chemistry. We just start organic chemistry in that second semester and not wait through 2 semesters of Gen Chem. No expectation of prerequisite chemistry. So we build from the beginning, just like we do with 1061. And then that concurrent enrollment in 1065, where they register for lab first. Still need the strong math placement skills, that 1151, 1155 minimum. Just as a credit comparison, the traditional sequence, if they went all the way through Gen Chem and OChem, is that 18 credits 18 credits total, whereas the life sciences is 13. And the only transition spot is from going 1061 to 1082 or going from 1081 to 1062. They can't transition later. The way that we space out the Gen Chem OChem material in that second semester puts it out of sequence with 2301 and 2302. So there is no transition in, I took 1082 and now I want to take traditional organic and vice versa. So there is no switch beyond that first semester of Gen Chem. And all 3 of those classes, 1061, 1071, 1071H, or 1081 are all deemed as equivalent classes. So one of those classes kind of would be the prerequisite for that second semester class. But they're kind of, once they hit that second semester, that's the track they're completing for that. Seats and reservations. We have seats reserved in all of our lecture classes for incoming freshmen and for transfer students in both lecture and lab courses at the 1000 level. And we have reserved seats for freshmen and our transfer students in 2301. So there are some seats reserved there. You will notice right now they are the daytime seats. What is left in 2301 are reserved for our NHS and NSSA or NASS students. So those are the reserved seats for that to avoid kind of putting everybody into the night class. All the reserves are going to be removed the Friday before the start of classes. Full lab sections right now are full, but kind of as you heard from math and previously, we're going to kind of watch enrollment and possibly add some seats to some of those. So we're not giving out permission numbers. They'll kind of look at it in July and open some seats for that. I do not expect additional seats beyond anything that would be reserved arriving in August. We're hiring TAs throughout the summer, and pretty much by the mid-August, we have found what we can find to teach the classes that we have on the books. So we'll have some reserved seats probably headed into August, but we're not going to be opening large swaths of seats. Best recommendation for students, watch online if there's a preferred lab section that they aren't getting into, but it's best to register for anything that fits into their schedule, and best to register for something and then do a switch as opposed to waiting for something to open in a section that they might not get a seat in. Also, because you have to register for a lab time first before you get into a lecture section, it's best to make sure that you have some combination that works into your schedule. All right. AP credit or AP and credit by exam. 3 AP for a chem test for a 3 is no credit and no courses skipped. With a 4, it's the can skip 1061, 1071, and 1065. They'll get credit for lecture and lab for that. And then with a 5, they could get both lecture and lab for both first and second semester Gen Chem. We do have a credit by exam for some students who think that they should have received a grade. That is going to be lecture credit only, not lab credit. So they could take the credit for the exam. They would just need to contact the ChemVac email to try and work through that. But it is a standalone lecture credit, not a lab credit. And then for AP for the life sciences, again, a 3, no credit, no skipped course. With a 4 or a 5, they can skip 1081 with the 1065 and get credit for those. Skipping 1082 is not an option, even with a 5, because it's too much organic content. But we do now have off-semester life sciences, so there is a 1082, 1086 option for students coming in the fall who have a first semester Gen Chem course. So for those who want to do the life sciences track, 1082 with 1086 are offered in the fall. So Michelle and I put together some tips for success. I know students struggle with Gen Chem. Some big tips, and they seem kind of obvious. Getting the students to attend lecture, reminding them that that is the best way to get content or the best way to understand what's going on in class. Do your homework and complete it on time. Students who complete their homework perform better, and we have found that less than 5% of students in the class who complete their homework and attend lecture don't pass the class. So it does improve your success by completing that homework on time and making sure you attend class. And then, as always, ask questions if they have it. It's a big thing for students. Utilize the chemistry tutor room. We have beautiful space over in 140 Fraser. We love to see students there, or coming to office hours for your faculty. My advice to students for the tutor room, go early, even if it's just a single question. They all have lab in that building. Stopping by the tutor room before or after lab is a great, I'm already in the building, let me just stop by and see and get this one question answered. But always attend early and often, and don't have students not wait for a stockpile of questions. It doesn't benefit anybody to go in with 30 questions. That is it for chemistry.
Thank you, chemistry colleagues. Thank you to all of our presenters.
Yes, thanks a million. So I will go ahead and just cover some final logistics before we switch to our breakout rooms. I wanted to give a plug for an evaluation form that we are going to be sending out to all of the registrants for today. We love your feedback for this session, but in addition, we use it to capture your ideas for the kind of training content you want to see next year. We really love your feedback and your suggestions and your ideas. So we really hope you'll take a minute to send an idea or two of what kind of training you'd like to hear next year, as well as how this session went for you today. So without further ado, now I think we're ready to move to our breakout rooms. I know that there's always lots of questions that don't get answered. So until 12:15, we will open some breakout rooms. So we'll have housing and res life in one room, our course access presenters in a second room, and then we have the TES speaker representing both admissions and TES in the third and final room. So my colleague Sarah will open up those breakout rooms, and you can go ahead and join and move around as needed to ask your questions. Thank you, everybody. Best of luck with orientation this summer.
Thanks, Amy.